Since Donald Trump took office on January 20, 2025, tensions between the U.S. and several countries have escalated, shaking up diplomatic relations. Changes in immigration policies and travel restrictions have made certain destinations less welcoming for Americans. Whether it's political conflicts, economic sanctions, or deep-rooted historical grievances, some nations aren't exactly rolling out the red carpet for U.S. travelers. In this video, we'll explore 7 countries that won't be welcoming Americans in 2025, and why. From strict immigration policies to outright travel bans, these places may not be as friendly as they once were. If you're an American traveler, retiree, or expat considering a move abroad, this is vital information you won't want to miss. Watch until the end to find out which countries are pushing back against American visitors, and why. Let us know in the comments. Would you still visit these places? Before we dive in, hit that like button, subscribe to Expedition Explorers, and turn on notifications for the latest travel updates, tips, and must-know global trends. Number 7. Panama. Panama, home to stunning beaches, lush rainforests, and, of course, the world-famous canal that the U.S. built, controlled, and later returned. But in 2025, renewed discussions about American influence over the Panama Canal have stirred old tensions, and let's just say Panamanians aren't amused. Think of it like this: you lend your car to a friend for decades. They maintain it, profit from it, and eventually return it, saying, "It's yours now." But just as you start enjoying it, they come back and say, "Actually, I kind of miss it. Mind if I drive again?" That's exactly how many Panamanians feel about the U.S. hinting at renewed involvement in canal affairs. The canal is Panama's economic powerhouse, generating billions in revenue. The country doesn't need or want a babysitter. Beyond the money, it's about national pride and sovereignty. Early in 2025, thousands of Panamanians hit the streets in protest, waving signs that essentially said, "Keep your hands off our canal." Many view this as just another case of American interference, and they're tired of it. What does this mean for American visitors? While Panama isn't banning Americans, the overall sentiment isn't as warm as the tropical weather. If you're planning a trip, maybe don't bring up the canal unless you're ready for a heated history lesson. So, if you're considering retirement on a Panamanian beach or a shopping spree in Cologne, go for it. But leave your "Make the Canal American Again" hat at home. Number 6. Turkey. Turkey, a land where East meets West, where Turkish coffee is so strong it could wake the dead, and where Americans aren't exactly the most popular guests right now. So what changed? Well, let's just say NATO disputes, arms deals, and tensions over Syria have turned up the heat. The US and Turkey have long had a love-hate relationship, like two reality show contestants pretending to get along but scheming behind the scenes. One major issue? Weapons deals. Turkey bought Russia's S-400 missile defense system, which, in the world of geopolitics, is like showing up to a NATO meeting wearing the enemy's jersey. The US was not pleased and promptly kicked Turkey out of the F-35 fighter jet program. In response, Turkey strengthened ties with Russia, which wasn't exactly in NATO's playbook. Then there's Syria. The US supports Kurdish fighters in the region, whom Turkey considers terrorists. This disagreement has made tensions sharper than a freshly sharpened kebab knife. So, will Turkey ban Americans? No, but the vibes have definitely shifted. It's like showing up to Thanksgiving dinner after a big family argument. People might still serve you food, but don't expect extra gravy. In places like Istanbul, Cappadocia, and Antalya, you'll still get a smile at tourist hotspots, but bring up US foreign policy, and things might get awkward. Number 5. Venezuela. Venezuela, home to some of the world's largest oil reserves, stunning landscapes, and political drama that puts reality TV to shame. Once a potential economic powerhouse, years of turmoil, skyrocketing inflation, and US sanctions have made Venezuela one of the least welcoming places for Americans in 2025. Here's the quick version. The US doesn't recognize Nicolas Maduro's government, calling his election fraudulent. In response, the US slapped heavy sanctions on Venezuela. Maduro blamed the US for Venezuela's economic collapse, rather than, actually fixing the economy. The result? Venezuela is not a fan of Americans. While U.S. policies were meant to pressure Maduro's government, they mostly hurt everyday Venezuelans, who now face food shortages, power outages, and insane inflation. Naturally, many locals blame the U.S. even without the anti-American sentiment. Venezuela isn't exactly a dream destination right now. Caracas is often ranked as one of the most dangerous cities in the world, and even Maduro himself told citizens to start farming in their backyards due to food shortages. Not exactly a great sign for tourism. If you still want to visit, expect money problems. The Venezuelan bolivar is basically monopoly money. 2. Security concerns. Walking around with an iPhone? 2. Not recommended. Less than friendly locals. You probably won't get chased out, but don't expect great customer service. Venezuela's landscapes are breathtaking, but between political instability, economic chaos, and anti-American sentiment, it's best to save this trip for another time. Number 4. Denmark. Denmark, the land of Vikings, world-class pastries, and cozy hygge vibes. But while Danes are generally welcoming, there's one topic that really annoys them: America's obsession with buying Greenland. Remember back in 2019 when Donald Trump suggested buying Greenland? Denmark and Greenland both laughed it off as absurd. Fast forward to 2025, and, yep, it's back. Some US politicians are reviving the idea, talking about Greenland's strategic location and natural resources. But Denmark? They've had enough. To put it in perspective, imagine your neighbor keeps hinting that they want to buy your backyard, even though it's not for sale, and oh yeah, your cousin lives there. That's how Denmark feels about America's Greenland ambitions. Denmark isn't banning Americans, but their patience is wearing thin. If you visit in 2025, here are some pro tips. Enjoy the pastries, bike routes, and Tivoli gardens. Don't joke about buying Greenland. If you visit Greenland, enjoy the scenery, but don't ask if it's for sale. Bringing up America's Greenland dreams is the quickest way to turn a warm Danish welcome into an ice-cold rejection. Would you still visit these places? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more must-know global travel updates. Number 3. Canada. Oh, Canada, the land of maple syrup, stunning landscapes, and some of the friendliest people on Earth. For decades, Americans have loved crossing the northern border for a taste of poutine, breathtaking nature, and maybe a little escape from the political chaos back home. But in 2025, that warm Canadian welcome isn't quite as warm as it used to be. Why? Well, let's just say US-Canada relations have hit a bit of a rough patch, and Donald Trump is a big reason why. First off, Canada and Trump have a history, one filled with trade wars, tariffs, and some less than friendly remarks. Remember when Trump called NAFTA the worst trade deal ever, and pushed for the USMCA agreement? While the New Deal did happen, it left a bitter taste in Canada's mouth. Then, there was the whole aluminum and steel tariff debacle, where Trump imposed tariffs on Canadian metals, calling them a national security threat. Canadians were understandably annoyed, considering they've been one of America's closest allies for over a century. It's like borrowing sugar from your neighbor for years, and then one day accusing them of trying to poison you. But it's not just trade disputes, there's also the issue of political and cultural values. Canada prides itself on being progressive, welcoming immigrants, and taking climate change seriously. Trump, on the other hand, has been known for pulling the US out of the Paris Agreement, tightening immigration policies, and, well, let's just say, not being the biggest fan of Justin Trudeau. The tension between Trump and the Canadian Prime Minister was no secret, and it trickled down to the people. In 2025, many Canadians still hold resentment toward Trump-era policies, and that means American travelers might not get the usual, "Oh, hey there, buddy," treatment. Now, don't get us wrong, Canada isn't banning Americans or anything dramatic like that. Number 2. Mexico. Mexico, one of the top travel destinations for Americans looking for sun, sand, and margaritas the size of their heads. Whether it's Cancun, Tulum, or Mexico City, Millions of U.S. tourists flock south of the border every year for an affordable, tropical getaway. But in 2025, things have gotten a bit complicated between the U.S. and its southern neighbor. And yes, you guessed it, Trump's policies have a lot to do with it. First, let's talk about the border wall. Trump made it one of his biggest campaign promises, and his administration pushed hard for its construction. While some of it was built, Mexico never paid for it, despite Trump's repeated claims that they would. The whole thing created a lot of tension between the two countries, and while the Biden administration tried to mend relations, Trump's influence still lingers. Many Mexicans saw his immigration policies as offensive and racist, and even though Mexico remains a welcoming country, some locals haven't forgotten the rhetoric. Then there's the issue of travel advisories. The U.S. government has frequently issued warnings about safety in Mexico, citing cartel violence and kidnappings. While some areas do have legitimate security concerns, many Mexicans feel these warnings are exaggerated and unfairly target their country. It doesn't help that Trump often used crime statistics to justify his border policies, which many saw as fearmongering. So, what does this mean for American tourists? Well, if you're respectful and open-minded, you'll likely have a great time. But don't be surprised if you run into locals who have strong opinions about U.S. politics. A casual conversation at a taco stand might turn into a debate about immigration, and if you mention Trump, prepare for some animated responses. The good news? As long as you're there to enjoy the culture, the beaches, and the amazing food, most Mexicans will still welcome you with open arms. Just maybe avoid bringing up border walls over dinner. Number 1. France. Ah, France, the country of romance, world-class cuisine, and effortlessly stylish people. Americans have always loved Paris with its iconic Eiffel Tower, charming cafes, and that feeling of stepping into a postcard. But in 2025, visiting France as an American might come with a little more attitude than usual. Why? You guessed it, Trump. France has always had a complicated relationship with the U.S. On one hand, there's admiration for American culture, Hollywood, and even some aspects of our entrepreneurial spirit. On the other hand, many French people see the U.S. as loud, excessive, and, let's be honest, a bit politically chaotic. Trump's presidency only deepened that perception. His decision to pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement back in 2017 was a huge slap in the face to the French government, which takes environmental issues very seriously. Even though the U.S. rejoined under Biden, the damage was done. Then there's the whole "America First" rhetoric. Trump's foreign policies often put U.S. interests ahead of global cooperation, which didn't sit well with European allies like France. Many French citizens saw Trump's attitude as arrogant and dismissive of international relationships. So, what does this mean for American tourists? So, what's the takeaway from all this? Well, if you're an American traveler in 2025, it's not that you can't visit these places. It's just that the welcome mat might be looking a little worn out. Politics, trade wars, and global tensions have made things a bit more complicated, and in some cases, that means extra side eyes at passport control, less than friendly service at your favorite cafe, or even outright restrictions on entry. But hey, that doesn't mean you should cancel all your travel plans. There are still plenty of incredible destinations around the world that would love to have you, from the sun-soaked beaches of the Caribbean to the historic streets of Eastern Europe. The key is to travel smart, be respectful of local customs, avoid heated political debates, and for the love of all things good, don't demand ketchup in a country that doesn't believe in it. And who knows? Maybe in a few years, global relations will shift again, and some of these destinations will be rolling out the red carpet once more. Until then, keep exploring, stay informed, and always pack a little extra patience for those unexpected travel hiccups. Now, I want to hear from you. Would you still visit any of these countries, or are they officially off your bucket list? Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into global travel trends, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on more insights, tips, and updates from around the world. Thanks for watching, and until next time, safe travel.